You just heard a quote from Casanova, right? A name that's basically become shorthand for seduction. But the story we're getting into today, well, it's not about him. It's about someone who took the art of seduction and turned it into something way more powerful. A tool for political influence, for shaping culture, and for a kind of psychological mastery that defined an entire age.
All right, let's get into it. We are talking about the absolutely incredible story of Madame de Pompadour. This is a woman who didn't just win over a king. She completely changed the game of what it meant to hold real power from just behind the throne. You know, every truly great story has a beginning that you can barely believe. And hers? It kicks off with a moment that sounds like it's straight out of a fairy tale, a prophecy that seemed totally impossible. Now, you really have to stop and think about how wild this prediction actually was. In 18th century France, society was incredibly rigid. You had the world of this little girl, Jeanne Poisson, firmly middle class. And then on another planet entirely, you had the king. The king's mistress was always picked from the highest, most ancient aristocratic families. For a girl like Jeanne to even think about that, it was a joke. It was completely laughable. But here's the thing. Jean's mother took that prophecy deadly seriously. She managed to get a wealthy lover to fund an education for her daughter that was fit for a future queen. Jean learned to sing, to act, to ride a horse better than anyone. And most importantly, she learned to master the art of conversation. So by the time she got married and was hosting her own salon, she was already a superstar in Paris, basically being sculpted for the role of a lifetime.
So, the stage is set, right? She's been perfectly prepared. But her target? Well, he wasn't just any man. He was maybe the most difficult person to capture in all of Europe.
So meet King Louis XV. He came after the legendary Sun King Louis XIV, and he spent his entire life in that massive shadow. I mean, think about it. This is a man who has everything you could ever possibly want, and because of that, he wanted nothing. He was just drowning in this deep, soul-crushing boredom and always felt like he wasn't good enough for the job. And everybody at court knew it. They knew he was always chasing the next new thing, the next distraction. So when this Jean Poisson finally gets his attention, everyone just kind of shrugged. They figured, okay, she's a fun little diversion, a middle-class curiosity. It'll be over her in a week. Oh, they had no idea who they were dealing with. Because this was not left to chance. This was a brilliant strategic campaign. First, she just made sure he'd see her, showing up in these gorgeous carriages right where he loved to hunt. Then, once he was curious and started sending her gifts, she got herself an invitation to a royal ball. And that's where she didn't just charm him with her looks, she absolutely floored him with her intelligence. And boo. Just like that, the impossible prophecy came true. The entire court was stunned when this middle-class woman was officially made the king's mistress and given a fancy new title, the Marquise de Pompadour. But see, that's the thing. Getting him, that was actually the easy part. Keeping him, that's where her real genius comes out to play. So, how did she do it? How did she hang on to that power when so many others had failed? This is where we get to the real heart of her strategy. Something that set her apart from literally every other seducer out there. Okay, this is such a key distinction. Think about it. Most seducers, then and now, they play a physical game. They target our basic instincts, right? And any power you get from that, it's like a flash in the pan. It's fleeting. Pompadour played a completely different sport. She went for the king's mind, his spirit. She targeted all his secret dreams that had been crushed by reality. This quote really says it all. The king felt small, you know? He felt inadequate. Other mistresses were just a distraction from that feeling. Pompadour did the exact opposite. With her, he looked in a mirror and didn't see who he was. He saw the great king he secretly wished he could be. And this whole strategy, it didn't just keep her at court. It made her absolutely essential. It cemented her role as the king's most trusted advisor and his best friend for decades. So what did this look like day to day? Well, she became the ultimate cure for his boredom. She built an entire world of entertainment and intellect around him. She put on plays, she advised him on buildings and gardens, she brought in the smartest people in France, like Voltaire, just to have interesting conversations. She essentially became his minister of culture, filling all the empty space in his life with art and ideas and beauty. And how long did this last? 20 years! 20! In a court where royal mistresses were famously disposable, that is an eternity. Even after they were no longer lovers, she stayed his closest confidant until the day she died. Her power was never just about the bedroom, it was about the mind. And her influence went way beyond the palace walls. As this incredible patron of the arts, she was the engine behind what we now call the Rococo style, or the Louis XV style. I mean, she didn't just keep a king entertained, she literally shaped the culture of an entire nation.
Okay, so what's the big secret? What's the timeless strategy we can pull from this amazing life story? Let's try to boil everything she did down to one powerful concept.
What was it, really? What was the one thing that allowed a middle-class woman to not just seduce the most powerful man in the country, but to basically rule alongside him for 2 decades?
The answer is this idea of the ideal lover. This is someone who gets that deep down, most people feel a little bit like King Louis. We all have these unrealized dreams, that inner artist or that brilliant thinker we wanted to be, but life kind of gets in the way and crushes those things.
So instead of offering a simple, cheap distraction from life's disappointments, the ideal lover does something way more profound. They hold up a mirror, but it's a special kind of mirror. It's a mirror that reflects back the idealized version of a person, the hero they always wanted to be. They don't just say, "I love you." They say, "I see the greatness inside you." And that is the ultimate lesson from Madame de Pompadour. Physical attraction, that stuff fades. But if you can see the hidden, crushed ideals in another person and you can be the one who makes them feel like they can finally achieve them, your influence over them will be absolutely limitless. It will last. So I'll just leave you with this question. The powdered wigs and palaces might be gone, but human nature hasn't changed one bit. Look around you. Who in your world is just yearning for someone to hold up that mirror and show them their own better self? The answer might be closer than you think.